Hey guys, welcome back to Gratitude of the Goodness of God. Sorry for the little tweak in our production plan there. The entirety of StreamYard went down for any of you who were with us a minute ago or half hour ago when the whole thing crashed and disappeared. So lucky for me, I have an amazing guest next who also knows a lot about tech, who was happy to help. And we worked on some stuff and we had a other plan and then StreamYard came back. So thank you to StreamYard. Everyone say a little prayer in your heart for our technology to continue working. And we're just trusting that God's in the details and that all of it was for divine reasons and it will come back out in the most beautiful way possible, whatever it's supposed to look like. So thank you for being with us. Our next guest here, we have Mr. Scott Wilhite. And he is a nice guy. I asked for his bio and he said, tell him I'm a nice guy.
I'm just a nice guy.
He's a nice guy and he has a pure heart and willing hands and a desire to serve God in wherever God takes him. And I've been able to watch him growing over the last, I don't even know how long you've been doing your stuff, a year or so, 2 years, something like that.
I've really seen long time
here and there and watched. Yeah. Well, like actively, full-fledged. You'll tell us your story in a minute. Then we'll get to hear it all and more about you too. But it's just been really neat to watch. And every time I watch his stuff, it like resonates with my heart. And I was like, oh my gosh. And even last week, I was like, hey, God, I want to work with this guy. And I thought I had messaged him, but apparently I thought about it and never actually did. And then we connected last night, was it? And it was just crazy. Yeah. The way God pulls people together and he puts you in the right place at the right time. We were talking about that a little while earlier, that when it's his work and you're doing it, then he just makes it work. It doesn't always work the way you think it's going to work, but it works out more beautifully in the end. So thank you, Scott, for being with us.
I'm happy to. And thank you everybody who's joining us live or as a recording. It's amazing to have the technology to work this way. I got to tell you that you have handled this really well, the juggling of chaos. It is insanely scary to show up live when things go wrong. And anyway, I honor you for what you have done with handling that, but also what you're doing with this. I think it's just remarkable that you are creating a movement, stepping forward, being the servant leader that you were called to do, and sharing what you got. And anyway, I just think that's remarkable. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. I have found this powers, calm in the chaos.
I do have to say one thing. Another part of the chaos on this that I find remarkable, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I recognize God's hand in my life every day, and I want to teach you how to do that also, so that you can feel that you're being guided, so that you get those answers. But this crazy thing happened, and that is that we're actually connected, and we're on this live because is it Livia?
Livia, like Olivia.
Livia. Okay, yeah. So like we don't even know each other. We have never talked until like a couple hours ago, and she calls me. Yeah, but she calls me through Facebook, and I have all of my notifications turned off. I don't want Facebook reaching out to me at all because I want to focus on things and stuff. So I have never been called by Facebook, and maybe it was because I upgraded my phone yesterday with some operating system stuff. I don't know, but maybe it was God. Maybe it was God saying, "Hey, we really got to connect you two." And so here we are, like a couple hours later, dealing with other chaos, and I'm happy to share.
It's been awesome. Yeah. God is good. I give him credit for everything. And all the hard things, he's in the details of those too, if we find him. So yeah, Scott has an awesome story for you of where he went from not really believing that God knew him, that God loved him, and to where he is now in sharing God's love with everyone he can reach. So please start at the beginning. How did that come about? Obviously,
what is the beginning? There's never really a beginning. Okay, but I will start one place. It was about I'm thinking maybe 12, 15 years ago, something like that. My faith was just in the toilet. Did I lose just Livia?
Nope.
I hope I didn't. No, you're still there. You're behind. Okay.
Watch you. Then I can drink my water.
Okay, there you go. So anyway, like 12, 15 years ago, I don't know, my faith was totally in the toilet. Like I've always kind of been a believer, and I go to church, and I do the things, I check the boxes, but I had this misbelief in God. and like my image of him was kind of anyway, it was the clipboard God, that I believe he was up there with his clipboard and he was watching me and he was like checking off all the things that I was doing wrong, and I was always doing things wrong, and so I just always felt like I wasn't really connected with him, and a lot of other things were going wrong in my life at that time, and I was really frustrated, really struggling to have that connection with God, and I didn't know what to do. And I remember totally geeking out. I'm a nerd sometimes, but one Sunday evening I was sitting on the couch and I pulled out my laptop, and I knew my faith was in the toilet. I knew he was circling the drain, and I thought, I'm going to find out just how bad it is. So I'm going to create a spreadsheet. And so I created this, it was my Faithometer. I wanted to, see where it was. So I listed all of these things that are like listed in, in the Gospels or in scriptures or things like that, on this side. And then I had a column that said, do I believe it? Yes. Do I believe it? No. And, am I unsure? And then I was going to like tally those up and be able to like have some sort of graph that showed where my faith was. I know it's
that
really
is
geeky.
Next level. I've never heard of quite that. But you were seeking. You were seeking.
I was seeking. Because I was praying every day and God wasn't answering my prayer. I thought, okay. And this is important because I don't want to just tell you the story. I want you to come back with me. I want you to feel the feelings that I had, because I know it sounds geeky right now. And I know I laugh at it, at that time, but I was hurting. I was really hurting because I was praying every day. I am checking the list. I'm doing the boxes, and I don't feel like he's hearing me, and he's certainly not answering my prayers. And I am so frustrated, and I don't know what else to do. And so I just thought I'd look, well, let's see how bad it is. So I had this whole list of stuff, like do I believe Jesus, was born, and, and do I believe angels came and stuff like that. And then I had like things in there, like little things like Christ said that God notices a sparrow that falls to the earth, So I'm going through and I'm like, do I believe that Jesus lived? Yes. Do I believe that God answers prayer? Yes. Do I believe God answers my prayer? No. I mean, very quick, and then the big thing was, do I believe God notices the sparrow that falls? And I'm like, absolutely. There's no way. How could he notice a sparrow and not notice me? And here I am pleading every day, God, please answer my prayers. Let me know that you're there. Help me with this, and it's the same problem over and over and over again. And I was just struggling. Okay. Well, fast forward. I can't remember how long it was after this, but I hear a guy speak, and he talks about sharing this, doing this process. And he called it a Hand of the Lord journal. And so I've just kind of adopted that. And what he said was that at the end of each day, before you go to bed, think back on the day and reflect and pray and say, God, will you show me your hand in my life today? And commit to yourself that you won't go to bed until you've written in your Hand of the Lord journal. And anyway, so I started doing that, and I found kind of three things. I do threes different ways.
I do too. Sign language.
I did sign language. Yeah, it was so. But anyway, I found these three things that I would look for. Did I get an answer to prayer? Did I have a tender mercy? This kindness that happened to me from somebody, that I could kind of say maybe God was involved with it. And then did I have a crazy coincidence that happened? And with those three things, I'd look for, and I started writing in my Hand of the Lord journal, and it started off okay, because I had a couple of things that just kind of got me started. And then I would have these days where I couldn't see him in my life. I couldn't, nothing stood out. And, I was, again, spiraling down, getting really frustrated. And so I committed on those days that instead of writing like an experience, I would read back to something that I had previously written. And then I would just write in there, read today. And so I'd go through, these little scenes. And when you write just like a sentence or two, like suddenly, like when you go back to it, you remember the whole story. You remember the whole experience, and it's remarkable. So anyway, that is the process. Hand of the Lord journal. Let me just show you real quick. So I have 4 down here. I have another one upstairs by my bed because I have done this pretty much every day for like 10, 12 years, something like that. And this has changed me. This is the most remarkable thing you can ever do with your faith, especially if your faith is low. Actually, wherever your faith is, this is the best thing that you could do, because what you do is you start to recognize God's patterns, his fingerprints in your life. I think Albert Einstein was the one that said, coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. But you'll start to recognize all of these patterns, and you'll see that he is involved intimately in your life. And so I have all of these little experiences. They're just, a sentence or two where I have felt he was involved. And suddenly, like all of a sudden, it's like, whatever you focus on grows, whatever you appreciate, it seems to expand. When you have gratitude, definitely gratitude. Those are ways that you can help these things expand. So just kind of one other thing that totally ties into this, I would love for you to adopt. It's kind of a big thing for me, but the deal is I've seen God's hand in my life so much now that I have this little phrase I got from a movie once, basically, and it said, after all the miracles I've seen, it just doesn't make sense to doubt anymore. So when you start recognizing God's been involved in your life, and over and over and over again, then you recognize, okay, recently I've seen his hand in my life. Maybe today is a horrible day. Maybe your StreamYard goes down and all chaos goes, it goes crazy. If that ever happens. But if you recognize, okay, well, wait, God was in my life yesterday. He's probably going to be in my life today. Anyway, if you do those things, those are ways that you can start to condition yourself to recognize his hand in your life. And I want to share just one more thing before I leave this part. Is this okay? Yeah. I'm not.
You're good. The other guest hasn't popped in yet. You can go a couple more minutes.
Okay, so I kind of geek out about this.
What you say, we'll just go with it. Just go.
Okay. So one of the things that I recommend that people do is to write down these crazy coincidences. And so often, like we want prayers answered so much that we think, maybe in our own head, these different answers, and we're never really sure, is it him? Is it us? Well, if you start paying attention to these things, you're going to start to recognize the consistency and repetition. And anyway, you'll start recognizing the clues with these. So I'm a movie guy. I geek out on movies. There's a movie called Hunt for Red October. And in it, it's about this American sub, and it's chasing this Russian sub, and the Russian sub has this new silent propulsion drive, so they can turn off their propellers and they can go on this worm drive, and it's like nobody can, the radar isn't picking it up or anything like that. And so they go silent while the Americans are chasing them, and they just disappear. And on the American ship is this guy named Jonesy. He runs the sonar and, all that stuff, but he's a big audiophile, loves music. And he notices when it disappears, he thinks he hears singing and stuff, and he records it. Well, anyway, he goes to the ship's captain a little bit later, and he says, I think they've got a silent drive on there, and I think we can track it. Here, let me play this for you. And he plays this back to him, and it just sounds like whales, like, just kind of this weird thing. And the ship's captain's like, I don't get it. You're not getting it. And then Jonesy says, play it back at 10 times speed. And when he does that, he clicks it up, and all of a sudden it goes, choo, 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 choo. When he compresses the time down, all of a sudden, they look at each other and they say, that is absolutely man-made. And then they start tracking them. So kind of a fun part of the movie. But if you look at these crazy coincidences that happen in your life, and if you write them down and you start tracking them, all of a sudden that's going to compress time down, and you're going to recognize these consistent, repeated patterns in your life where God is showing up over and over and over again. And And then you just remember it, after all the miracles you've seen, it just doesn't make sense to doubt anymore. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, that's
Olivia?
beautiful. I love it. You're perfectly aligned with everything we're talking about here. And I'm glad to hear that we'll probably go into your journal at the end of today with all of your crazy coincidences and the way that God works.
I mean, how crazy that a Facebook call ever got through to me. Like I have all these barricades so that doesn't happen, so that I just
yeah.
Okay.
I had one a while ago. It was in the middle of general conference, and I had run to the grocery store, and my phone rang, and it was through my system that calls that it's not supposed to call my cell phone, and it did. And I picked it up, and it was a girl who had connected with me for an event I did 6 months ago, and she didn't call me, nor was I in her cell phone. So that was a God connection, and we ended up having a really good conversation, and it was a God thing, and he's in the details every single day.
Yeah. Okay. So now I want to switch to one other thing, because I know we have a short time on this. And thank you all for joining us, whether you're live, whether you're watching the rebroadcast. This is something that has been pestering me for a little while, and I'm really excited about it on some things that anyway. Okay. So let me share my screen. Let's see if it shows up. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I was at this conference about a month ago, and this guy was speaking, and he puts up on the screen this big 414, and 414 means something for me. There's a big story on that I'm not going to go on to here, but I was like, wait, what does 414 actually mean? And right below that, he had a scripture on there. And the scripture is from Esther 4:14. And I'm going to tell you the story, and then I want to share the scripture. And then I want to point to you who are here watching live or watching the rebroadcast. And I just want you to listen to your heart and see if it's telling you anything that you need to be doing. Okay, so the story is about Esther. If you're familiar or unfamiliar about it, she was back in the Old Testament time. She was a queen, and at that time there was this bad guy that was trying to kill all the Jewish people, and she was a queen, and she was Jewish. Okay, and her uncle Mordecai tells her, you need to go and talk to the king and let him know, what's really going on here, because this bad guy's kind of anyways doing some stuff, and all the people are going to get killed, and you have the opportunity to stop him. And she says, well, I can't go in unless I am actually invited in by the king. And there's like certain times that happens. And I can't just go on in because the previous queen was killed when she did that. And I fear for my life. And Mordecai says something so interesting in there. He says, listen, God's going to save his people anyway. But, and here's the scripture that I want to share with you. Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? In other words, God's going to save his people, but what if he's going to use you? What if you step forward and you have courage and you share what you can, and he uses you to save his people? If you don't do it, he's going to find another way. But maybe you are here at this time for this reason, for this specific purpose, and maybe it's to be amazing. Okay. So as I share that story, the other thing that I want to just impress upon your mind is, why are you here right now watching this? What was it that inspired you to click on a link or to watch see a video or something like that? Is something speaking to your heart? Is God trying to tell you, I got something for you to do? Okay, maybe he is. Maybe he's reaching out to you through various means. He has something for you to do, and you just have to figure out what it is he wants you to do. I personally believe there's this amazing movement going on, like this really big movement, but it's full of all these other little movements, and you are being called to be a movement maker, a leader, to help other people to come back to God, to reconnect with their souls, to figure out your full identity. Who am I really? What is my purpose? And as you are that leader and help people with that, and as you discover that for yourselves, you are able to then lead other people. You can live your purpose. You can be who you were meant to be. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Maybe Ruth or Esther's story is your story. Maybe you have that same opportunity to connect. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of geek out and share that with you. Is that cool? Oh, I lost your audio.
Whoop. Sorry, I had muted a minute ago. That was me coming back. That I've definitely felt that there is so many people, like God's been working underground, like in the background on so many people for so many years. And now it's like they're all showing up, and I'm connecting with so many amazing people doing incredible things all across the world for God. And they all look slightly different. And that's the biggest thing that we can recognize is, yes, we each have our purpose. We have like this divine mission and the thing for which we're called to earth to do, but we also have our purpose in this moment. And so it's, God, what am I called to do today? How am I called to serve my family today? Who in my neighborhood needs me? Like, so I have a crazy story just happened the other day. So I was in the middle of preparing for this for like the last 3 weeks. And it's like busy, full schedules all the time. So full of goodness. But I was like, I really want to do more service. And I get that all this is service too, but it was like, I want to do like a physical in-person service thing. I want to like take my kids and go, I don't know, do something, right? And so we were walking around the block last night, and I had like this little gap, and I was going to come up and work on stuff for this. And we were just walking around the block, and there's a lady out there, and she is raking leaves out in the front. She's got like 5 big bags already there, and she's already finished hers, and she's working on the neighbor's yard. And it was just the coolest thing, because I was like, God knew my schedule, and he knew what was in there, but he also knew what was in my heart. And he knew I was wanting this service opportunity. So my 9-year-old and I went over there and helped rake leaves for half an hour. And then we went home. And it was like, it was so perfectly placed that if we choose to trust that he can work through us, no matter how crazy our schedule is, no matter how many things are on our plate, whether we work full time or have 3 jobs or whatever you're doing, that God can make a way, whether that's through a smile or through a kind word. Or maybe it's your season when he's calling you to write a book or make a course or start a YouTube channel like Scott does, and all these different things where he's calling you to do and create something bigger and something greater. And I just stand as a witness and testify that he will provide the way. If the desire is in your heart and it's a righteous one, then when you are called, you will be qualified. You will be equipped with what you need to move forward, to do whatever you're called to do. And you can probably stand as a second witness to that one.
Yeah, but also, well, I'm going to put a little counterpoint to it, because I do believe that is true, but there's kind of there's an asterisk to it. And that is the asterisk is many are called, but few are chosen. Just because you're called doesn't make you chosen. Just because Esther had that opportunity, God wants to push us. He wants to stretch us. And sometimes those things are going to be really uncomfortable. They're going to be outside of our comfort zone. It may be by being on a live stream. That is definitely pushing people out of their comfort zone. Yes. But you may be called to do something, but you got to start moving your feet forward. You got to let God guide you. And so really, yes, I absolutely believe you have a calling, you have a mission, you have a purpose. There are great things that you could be doing. But if you don't move forward, if you get too busy, if you get stuck in the minutia, if you listen to those negative voices on your shoulder that tell you you're not good enough, or you can't do it, or you're not worthy, or something like that, and you shrink back, then God's going to call somebody else who will actually step forward. So anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of
I agree.
Talent. Okay. If you feel the call, if you feel your heart, you gotta move forward.
Yeah, and it is. It's trusting not that he's going to work it all out. So it's exactly what's in my heart was, he just said it better, was that we have to take the steps. We have to take the inspired actions. We have to do it. But then God works with us. So he meets us halfway.
Yes. Yeah. Especially if you're moving, he makes amazing things happen.
Awesome. Perfect. So Scott is working on an amazing thing and helping people move forward who feel that God calling in their heart. So make sure you click on that link, or don't click it, but type it in, that little gift bundle link that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Go there, make sure you register for it so that you will get the gift bundle with everything that our guests have for you. And we will link where you can learn all about Scott and more about what he's up to in the world and how he can help you move forward in living that mission that you're called to. So thank you, Scott.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for organizing it and living your calling, which may be gathering more people to help them, empower them to figure out who they really are, what they're capable of, and imagine the difference that can be made. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
All right. We'll see you.
See ya. All right. Oh, wasn't Scott amazing? Okay, I'll take that little thing off the screen now. Thank you for being with us. It's been so good. We're going to give you your little water break here for just a minute, and then we'll bring on our next guest, Miss Heather Burnett, and we'll see you in just a minute. Let's see. Trying to do screen share, but it's not wanting to let me. There we go. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Let's see if you can get me up there. Hi, we're back. We're back. Okay, so really great here. Those of you who are here that maybe weren't at the beginning, we had a little bit of a tech glitch at the beginning. And so what we did was the entire broadcast went down. StreamYard crashed entirely and we had to come back. So this is the second link. So there is somewhere on the Facebook page or the YouTube page, there's a first one where you can watch the first two stories that were shared. So you can go back there. Really quick here, I'm going to go over the amazing VIP package that we have for you. If you saw it when you registered, if you haven't yet registered, go down to the little scrolly thing at the bottom, put that link in and get your ticket. Make sure you're registered, because then you'll get all the gifts and goodies that we have for you will be sent to your email at the end of the event. So thank you. Let me pop this back up there for you and we'll talk about it for just a second. Okay, so this is what we have for you. The VIP bundle is only $37, which is absolutely fabulous. This will give you access to a live bonus Q&A session that is after the event each day. So at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, we will hop off the StreamYard and we'll hop over to a Zoom room where you'll be able to have everybody on screen and you'll be able to talk and communicate with me, with some of our other guests, as we're there together and we're sharing stories, being able to answer your questions. Maybe you could tell a story of what happened in your life and we'll be able to help you tweak the way that you look at that and be able to see more of how God is in your life. So whatever questions you have, you can bring them there and we will be happy to talk to you and get a little bit deeper human connection than we can do on something like this, where it's just streamed and then you're not there physically. Then you'll get lifetime access to all the recordings. I'm going to make them audios so that you can put them in your ear just like your music, and you can just listen to them over and over. You can invite God to just guide you to the message you need that day and trust that he will bring that. And it happens every time. It's absolutely amazing. You will get a ticket to the Joyful Holiday Gratitude and Creation Workshop. So that's my thing. I love creation in the fact of what is it that you want in your life and how do you create that? How do you set up your structure? How do you set up your life? How do you set up the way that you think and the way that you feel? And how do you align body, mind, and soul so that you're on purpose and doing what you're called to do in this season of life? And whatever the way that is. So we'll align you that way and help you get really clear on that. And then we'll get a 20-minute coaching call with me, one-on-one, just us. We get to talk and go deep on what it is that you really want in your life, and then create the plan for you to get there. And so you'll know what's your next step. Then we're going to do a group mindset workshop, which is really fun. We have this little quiz and we're going to take it, and it will help you see where your mind is at and how you look at the world. And then we'll take it with how you think you should think. And then you'll get to see kind of the difference within there, as well as the possibilities for upgrading your mindset and how that affects every aspect of your life. And then we'll do a natural health solutions workshop where we're going to talk about essential oils. We're going to talk about how they help you physically, mentally, and emotionally, and to help your body to really function optimally, to be able to work and do all the things that you want with the energy and the strength and the vitality to do so. And the first 100 people who have joined will be entered to win a creation session. Let me take that banner off so you guys can see the bottom. There's the link. That's what you need so that you can enter for a 2-hour creation session. And that is just me and you together. And we're going to create whatever it is you need. If it's a structure for your life, if it's a plan for how to do this, if it's a graphic something or other, whatever you need, we'll create it together and we'll figure out what that is when we get there. So I appreciate you. I'm so glad that you're here. And we hope that this gift will bless your life, as well as just the gift of hearing all the stories. So thanks for being with us. I'm going to hop that off the screen here and bring in Miss Heather. You ready there? There we are. Hello. Oh, you are muted, dear. There we go.
Okay.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, but I'm gonna admit it, I'm a little bit nervous. So
it's okay. We'll take nervous. We do real here. We do real.
I'm good with that. We can do that.
We do real. So thank you for being here. So I met Heather the other day. Was it by referral? I think it was referral.
Yes.
Yes, somebody referred me to her. And she has a son with autism. And she has this story of how she kind of sees God's hand in that when the life didn't look like the way you thought life was going to look, and how God works in the everyday, and to be able to sustain us and help us and strengthen us one day at a time.
Yes.
So take it away. Do you want to give a couple-minute intro? Tell a little bit about you, so people kind of know a little bit more of your background as well.
Well, I'm Heather. I'm the mom of 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy with autism. And my parents used to call me the mouth of the South. I was an only child and I talked a lot, and I still talk a lot. So when my son wasn't developing at the same rate as my girls, I sort of, it was an out of control moment, and it was something that I did not know how to deal with. But I'll back up a little bit from that. I'm also a blogger and a health coach, but most importantly, I'm a mom. And it brings us to the autism diagnosis that sort of changed everything, because up until that point, I was living what on the outside would have looked like the all-American dream. And then, something happens and that you're not expecting. And it's one of those things where, you say, we plan and God laughs. Well, that happened. And it was definitely a wake-up call and a renewal of faith on my part, and our whole family's part, because we did not know what to do with this beautiful, wonderful, otherwise completely healthy child who was not developing. And it was out of control. When you feel like you're out of control and you don't know how to fix something, it tests your faith and it tests your conviction. And that's what we went through as a family. And you get put through all kinds of tests as a parent, but when you have a parent of a child with special needs, those tests get amped up. And this kind of goes back to my back when I was in the work field, in the workforce, sales days of having something to show, a prop or whatever. But this is something that I pulled off my vision board of the 365 times in the Bible. It states, do not fear, do not be afraid. But full disclosure, when my son was diagnosed with autism and nonverbal, I was afraid. I was afraid, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I felt out of control, and I wanted so much to just go in and fix. And I prayed for a complete reversal. I wanted a miraculous recovery because I wanted my family back. I wanted my normalcy back. I wanted my sense of stability back. And it took me, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, it took me several years to realize that prayer not being answered was actually the miracle I was looking for, because it helped me look at the world differently. It helped me look at individuals differently, and it helped me see things the way Nathan sees them. And to realize that it's not a disability, it's a gift. It just depends on your perspective and how you look at it. Was it a test of faith? Absolutely. But it restored my faith in God, and that there is a bigger plan out there than what I could ever put in a Franklin Covey planner. And, these things happen in our lives, and it just strengthens us. It can weaken you or it can strengthen you. And depending on how you look at it and your faith and your perspective, that's the way, that's how you deal with things like that. And you can control your attitude and your conviction. And that's kind of what I've chosen to do. It's a gift. But in the beginning, like we talked about yesterday, I looked at it as, what did I do wrong? How is this my fault? And it took me a long time to realize that this is the way God wanted it to be. There's a lot of moms have a big job to fill, but special needs moms really do. There's lots of things that you don't have other moms to relate to. You don't have people to bounce ideas off of a lot of times. And every opportunity to speak with someone is a learning experience, and also sort of an autism awareness moment. So one of the things we talked about yesterday was the judgment thing, because we're all guilty of we all want to do our best, but we also don't want to be judged. And with autism comes some behaviors that are different. And I believe I shared with you, taking Nay just to going to Walmart or to Dollar General, and he would have a sensory meltdown, and not really be able to verbalize his objections to the store experience. And so he'd throw a fit, or he would strip his clothes off and run down the aisle at Dollar General in front of everyone. And then everyone looks at you, and you can't, grab the mic and say, pick up on aisle 3. And also, my son has autism, and let me explain to everyone what that means. I could do that now, but back then, cut to like 7 years ago, it was shame. And it was a lot of tears, and a lot of shame, and a lot of, oh, everyone's judging me. They all think I have an out of control child, and I feel like I have to put forth a disclaimer. I feel I have to explain, and then also not take that out on the child and on everyone. So when I say that it was a process, a lot of explaining, a lot of praying, a lot of explaining and praying again over and over. We've come a long, long way. We still have a long way to go, but we've made it, and it is in no small part just prayer works. Even if you sometimes you pray for the miracle that just change everything, make it go back to normal, but that's not in the plan. That's not in the plan. I say, okay, So give me the strength, God, just give me the strength to get through this day, this moment, this next meltdown, and we'll grow from there. And listen, Nathan, statistics and studies, because I'm a learner, I'm a writer, I'm a researcher also. Statistics show if everything was pointing to by 5, he isn't speaking. By 7, he isn't. There's hope is gone, and I refuse to believe that. Like, I don't care how many studies I look at, I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to continue. Best practice is to get this type of therapist to do this. I was put on wait lists for years and years and years. Didn't take no for an answer. Just continued, persevered. And I don't know where that strength came from to keep on going and not take no for an answer, but I'm proud that I did, because he's growing. His vocabulary is growing. He's a 10-year-old boy now. He's defying odds in a lot of ways. And, so everything happens for a reason. You just have to keep your head up and keep going. Keep going.
Yes, for sure. And it is so many times, whether it's your child has autism or you're divorced or a job loss or move across the country, your house burns down or it's flooded or a tornado or a hurricane or whatever happens. We all have these things that happen, and it kind of throws you for a loop, and you're like, well, okay, got to get my center again. But whenever, I always say eyes on Jesus. If we keep our eyes on Jesus, we're like, hey, I have a picture right there above my computer. So whenever I'm doing anything, it's like, hey, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to handle this? And it's like the steps come one day at a time, one step at a time. And it helps you get through all of the hard days. And if we're going to have to go through hard days anyway, you might as well go through them with the power of God than do it on your own, right?
Agreed. Absolutely. Yes, because all of those things that you mentioned, they seem to be complete devastation at the time, but you have to realize, okay, wait, but who am I really? What really, really matters? At the end of the day, what really matters? Is it that stuff? Is it that security blanket I had? Or do I want to rise to every occasion and be able to look myself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, you did your best, and you can rest easy knowing you did your best? And to me, that's more important than any material item or, anything. Not saying that that's not tough and hard, because as, someone going through divorce now, that is tough. That is hard. That is a separation of a lot of things, but there are things that are more important than those things. And putting everything I have into doing for my son and my children, and being able to look myself in the mirror at the end of the day is more important than any item or, sometimes even to-do list or, shopping spree. That's not important anymore. That's not. There's more important things. And this is life. It's about, it's about the journey, not the destination. So if something bad happens, pick up, go on, move on, keep going.
Yes.
And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And when we talk about like being yoked with Christ, when we're yoked with him, he pulls the weight of it. Oftentimes I'll explain it with math. So if I have 1 and Christ is infinity, 1 plus infinity is infinity. If I have 100 plus infinity is infinity. 1,000,000 plus infinity is infinity. So whether I'm having a day when I feel like I have the capacity of 1,000,000 or I have the capacity of 1, if I pray and I invite Jesus into that, I'm yoked with him, and I can do all things that are necessary in this moment and let go of the things that can be let go of and be guided in the things that I need in the day. And it's a beautiful process.
Yeah. And have peace while you're doing it.
Peace. Yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's worth its weight in gold right there, is having that peace while you're carrying on. That makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so many times I'll hear people say, oh, I don't need Jesus, I'll just do it, or I have so hard or whatever. It's like, no, if you really understand who Jesus is, if you really understand how much God loves you and you activate his power in your life, you can have peace in the middle of your pain. And there's a beautiful song. It's by Hillary Weeks. It's called At the Same Time. Go search it on YouTube. It's amazing.
I will.
And it has there's a graphic video where you can watch the words and stuff, but it's all about, it doesn't make sense to everyone. Like, how can you be going through so much hard and yet still be smiling? How can you have so much joy? How can you do this?
Yeah.
Because it's that peace that comes. He's the Prince of Peace and the God of the world. And like, our Father loves us, and he will give us that gift of peace if we turn to him. And so many times our prayers are like, really quick, let's just get moving. I've got so much to do. But if we'll just give ourselves even just 2 minutes, and you're like, hey, I'm giving you 2 minutes of absolute silence. I'm here.
Right.
Like, peace comes and it washes away all the worry.
No, and absolutely. I agree with you. And when we're thankful for the small things, it opens up, the door for bigger things. So some days I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, I wrote a book, and I finally, it's almost at that point where it's like full blown launch. And I'm like, ooh, I want to do. But you know what? I'm going to celebrate the fact that my son packed his own lunchbox and we got to school on time. That's a big win for today. That's the win we're celebrating. We're going to celebrate every single moment that we get through, or that we don't have to get through, that we just kind of glide through. And that opens up so many opportunities. And you're going through life happy with a smile on your face, even when things are, most people are like, why aren't you in a corner balled up crying right now? I'm like, because I'd rather be smiling and happy for everything that I do have in my life. And, I've got the strength to handle this, and all women do, all people do. But, I have a special place in my heart for moms with children with special needs, because it's hard, but you are set apart for that. It's not, but there are so many moments where you feel lonely and isolated. And so, when you do have the power of prayer and God and that strength, it sustains you and gets you through 100%.
It does every time. I love it. Can you take us back to a point or two in your journey with your son, maybe when you've like felt God extra? So like, paint the picture for us. What was it like in that experience? How were you feeling? And then what steps did you take that helped you to get to that peace, and helped you to call in, the inspiration you needed to figure out what to do?
Well, there's been so many instances, because that with autism comes some behaviors that can be super messy, and lots of destruction. But I'll say just recently, we've relocated to Florida so that he can go to a special needs school here. And I'm so thankful that worked out, because that's something that I prayed for years and years. We were able to get a grant for him to go and do. But moving from a home to an apartment is an adjustment. Without a yard is an adjustment. And he's active, and he's a boy. Mm-hmm. And he the first night I thought, okay, I'm not going to sleep ever again, and I was nervous and I was scared. But he broke the screens off the windows and started throwing everything out off the balcony and out of the windows. And the neighbors were complaining, and overheard some neighbors saying, where's your mother? What is wrong with you? And as a mother, it called back in that whole judgment thing again, that replay of even with. But this was with words. And there was a part of me that wanted to just go. I prayed. I said no. Mm-hmm. So I prayed for the strength to get through that moment, to not react in anger for him, and to not react in anger to the people that were asking what was wrong with him, and had a discussion with them. Since then, they have gone out of their way to befriend us, to befriend Nathan, because I handled it with calm and cool. And also the fact that, groceries went up. Literally, people say the cliche of down the drain. Well, it wasn't down the drain, but it was off the balcony, ruined in the woods somewhere. We're talking about $150 worth of groceries thrown out into the forest back there. It's a beautiful view, by the way, but just like, oh wow, how in the what am I going to do? but instead of getting angry about it, I just explained. And I think maybe the old me would have maybe lashed out a little bit, but taking everything into consideration and praying for the strength to get through it with calm and dignity, I did. And, yelling and being upset isn't going to do anything to help anyone else, and much less my son. Another example would be just recently, some children, I do not blame them or their parents, but we were out and they kept running into a store. He wanted a ball. We have a bunch of balls at home. We don't need them. And you can't run in and out. You have to teach life lessons everywhere you go, every minute. And I heard the kids call him the R word. I'm not going to say it. Mm-hmm. And it was like a knife. And, there was again a part of me that wanted to just stand and shout and scream, but instead I said, "Excuse me, boys, but I don't think you understand. My son, Nay, has autism. He's nonverbal. That's not a very good word to use." And they were a little stunned, and then they apologized, and then I got Nay. I don't think he knew, which I'm thankful for that happened. And we left, and we moved on, and we dropped it, and didn't make a thing of it. But it was hard to hold back because that protective instinct kicks in. But I believe that we're covered under God with that same protection instinct, and so we don't have to fight those battles. He will fight those for us, and that gives me peace. So I don't feel like I have to always get up on the soapbox and tell everyone it. A simple explanation, remove from the situation, and move on. And those are just two, but I could have a Santa Claus length list of things. But those moments, though, every moment you have where you keep control of your attitude and your perspective on that makes you stronger and gets you through the next one and the next one and the next one.
I love that. So those are some of the beautiful gifts of finding the goodness of God, that he gives us that peace when we need it, when we're having a hard time, but he can also give us that healing in our heart when our hearts hurt because of an experience that someone else does, and he can take that away too.
Yes.
And he can open the eyes of you for your neighbor or these boys for your son.
Right.
Like seeing that greater perspective, because I really stand by the fact that every single person that we meet, we can learn something from them. Always. We can always learn from them. And that if we really understood their story, we would love every single person.
I agree. Everyone's a teacher. You can learn something from every single person and every experience.
Yeah. But I love that you even took that moment to be calm yourself and then to communicate with those boys, because otherwise they might have just continued doing that. But maybe what you did was you planted a little seed, that little seed of awareness, that little seed of there's the greater view that you can see about people and humanity. So maybe next time you'll be like, oh yeah, remember when that other thing happened? I shouldn't do it again.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, well, maybe they'll think, instead of remember when that mean woman came up and yelled at us and instead of remembering that, maybe they'll remember, oh, wait, that's not a good, and maybe they were lashing out. I don't know what those kids were going through. And I can, again, it goes back to at the end of the day, I don't have to feel badly about how I treated someone because of something that was going on in my life. But this is not strength I was born with. This is not, this is a cultivated patient strength that can only come from God, because this is not a man-made type of thing. If it was and you could bottle it, you would be a millionaire. It's not.
So walk us through that a little bit. How did you get from this not being natural to now it seems to come to you a little more naturally maybe than it used to? But what was your journey there? Is there some practical steps that you took, like things that you learned that would be beneficial to someone else that maybe is in that place of feeling shame around the situation that they find themselves in, feeling frustrated with it and not being in that place of peace? What have you learned?
I started doing a gratitude journal. This is part of my health coaching. I learned about journaling. I was journaling anyway, but gratitude journaling specifically. That was step one, looking at the positive aspects of everything, even the absolute worst of it. And we're talking about when this is gross, but I'm going to say it because it's true. When they went through a couple of years where he was doing this thing where he would go to the bathroom and then smear it all over the walls. We're talking about going through like lots and lots and lots of wipes, and so you're talking about going from feeling like you're super stressed and super chill on a Saturday to cut to you getting an industrial size thing of wipes and doing like a Karate Kid wax on wax off thing, cleaning it up. And I would try, instead of just like stressing, I would think, okay, well, let me look at this as a good workout for my arms, or let me be thankful for the fact that these Clorox wipes work so well. And but so in the worst situation, the grossest situation, I learned, okay, there's a positive aspect to this. I can find it, and let me focus on that because it's going to do more for my mental health than the other. Doing things for myself when I could, because a lot of times mothers struggle with self-care and struggle with, their health and nourishment because they're doing for their children. And that's a normal thing. And I understand that, but taking time to do things for myself allowed me to not resent the times that I was doing things for my kids. That it's a sacrifice struggle in motherhood. But if you don't do some things for yourself, you feel like you cannot pour from an empty cup. I have to do some things for myself so that I can have the patience and the presence of mind to distance myself when those messy life things happen. And that's cultivated also. That takes small steps to get there. But those things I would say are probably the most important. And, and yes, I prayed for the strength because just a year ago, I was doing better, but I would get angry. I would get angry. And, if I couldn't work out or do Tai Bo or something, I had to funnel that into something. So, but instead of yelling and screaming, journaling and looking at the positive aspects, it's a much healthier way to handle that stress in life. And it's worked. It's worked for me. And that I think that it will work for anyone. You just have to take small steps to get there, because these types of changes don't happen overnight. Losing weight doesn't happen overnight. Cultivating patience doesn't happen overnight. You have to give yourself grace throughout the process.
It's beautiful. And I feel like God gives us opportunities over and over again, that we're here to become like Christ. So there's all the attributes of Christ that we get to learn. So we're going to have opportunities to learn patience and love and diligence and forgiveness and all of these attributes over the course of our life.
Yes.
So just I'm in school. I'm on Earth School, and we're going to figure it all out one step at a time. And
it's a learning process, and you begin again the next day. So if something happened and, hey, maybe I could have done this better or handled this better. Okay, then I'm okay with that. I learned, and tomorrow I will do better. I'll begin again and I'll do better. And that's just how you grow and evolve and continue to, thrive in life, instead of, just sort of surviving it or making it, on edge. So
for sure. So I'm getting the impression that we're kind of in the middle of a miracle right now, because I'm watching the clock and I feel like we've gone through like 7 stories and it's only been like 7 minutes is what it feels like to me. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, God's amazing, because the atonement really covers everything. It covers time, it covers money, it covers resources. And he has the ability to collapse and expand time. So I feel in my heart that maybe there's somebody out here who really needs to hear more from Heather. So if you're somebody who's on here and you're watching live, I encourage you to hit share and tag people that you know that might be benefiting from what she's sharing, because it's like in my soul, I feel that there's more people that need to hear this, and they might need to hear it now. So just ask yourself, who is that needs this? Who do I know that could use this message? And then share it on your Facebook page or on your wall, or tag people, whatever that looks like for you. And we're just going to keep talking, go by the Spirit, and see what happens here and the things that come out. And we pray that they will be a blessing in your life as well, because it's really been absolutely incredible to see how much we've accomplished in a little bit of time here, which has been fabulous. So I have a thought. Actually, I had several thoughts that came to me while you were talking. If you're okay with it, I'm going to interject a really quick story here. Probably about 10, 12 years ago, I had hired my very first coach, and it was for like 3 months or something like that. And I don't remember, it doesn't matter how much I paid her. But the point was that we were there and we were working on stuff, and we were at a place where I had 4 or 5, maybe I think I had all 5 of my kids by that point. Probably the youngest was like a baby, maybe 1 year old. And we were in this place, and I was like overwhelmed, frustrated with all of the little kid stuff, all of everything. Mm-hmm. And I just remember she said, well, what if you believed it was possible? Because I was saying that, I really wanted time to like have a date night with my husband, and I wanted to be able to go to the temple and these things. And she was like, okay, well, what if you were to believe it was possible? And I was like, what? Like, this was way before I understood all this mindset stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, but it's not. Like, we're on food stamps and Medicaid, and like, there's zero money. There's not a budget to hire a babysitter so that we can go out. There's not the money to go pay for dinner when we get there. It's just not going to happen. And she's like, just pretend, just like decide that it's going to be okay, and you can just believe it. And I'm like, okay. And so my intention was, okay, I'm going to find a way that we can have our date nights, and my kids will be cared for by somebody I love, somebody I trust, and it's going to be within my budget. And she said that, and I just like laughed. I was like, budget zero? Like, I don't get this. How is that even possible? I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm choosing to believe, right? This was my beginning of this journey. And I just remember the next day, it was probably 10 o'clock in the morning. My neighbor comes and knocks on my door, and she says, I just feel really strongly I should volunteer to watch your kids once a week so you and your husband can go on a date. And I was like, whoa, what? Like, God can make a way when there is no way. He can turn the impossible things possible. And that's what happens when we choose to believe, when we choose to activate that faith. And then just to make sure he knew that I knew that it was him, a few hours later, my other neighbor from around the corner comes and knocks on my door, or she called me, and she says, I feel like I should volunteer to watch your kids every month so you and your husband could go to the temple. And I was like, God, you are good. Oh my gosh. Like, he makes the way. And, when we moved here, and I was like, okay, I don't really have anybody here. And we were in a really hard place in our life. And I was like, okay, I don't have a lot of friends here. I don't want to have to explain the hard places that we're in all the time. Like, I just need a friend.
Right.
So I dropped my son off to play with a friend he had met at school, ended up talking to his mother, and we've been friends ever since. And it was like, God just like gives you what you need when you need it, if you choose to allow him to do it. But you have to do those actions. If I had not gone to the door to meet the mom that day versus dropped him off at the curb, it's like following those little tiny nudges that he gives you, and it's amazing the miracles that will come up.
No, I firmly, I agree with you. I agree with you there. After Nate was down here and started school in August, I started to think, what am I thinking? A 10-year-old boy in an apartment. This is, but we're not going to isolate ourselves. We're going to get out. We're going to go. We're going to talk to people. And we walk around the parking lot a lot of times with him bouncing the ball. We have met so many neighbors that have game-changing neighbors that I never would have met otherwise. There's a lady that on the 3rd floor, her husband was an Asperger's expert. And so she's given me books. And just because we run into her so many times, the times that Nathan has thrown some of his artwork and some of my family photos off the balcony, which we're fixing that now. But I'll cry. We'll go down there. I won't ask anybody for help, but I'll come back and the stuff will be up against my door. And no one's taking credit. It's just happening. Speech therapist lived 2 doors down. And they have said, hey, if you ever need any help with him, we're happy to do it. And I'm like, wait, do you really, you mean that? Like, just to be nice? And I think we talked about this yesterday. Sometimes that kindness is like, oh, that's overwhelming. Someone's being super kind just for no good but wow. But he works in mysterious ways. So I went so many years pushing, trying to find the best therapist, or a therapist, a this, a that, and would send out hundreds of emails and just go. And now here we are, and I'm surrounded by all these people that are right here. And it's like, okay, we're in the right place. It might feel like we're alone, but we're not. We're really not. And that it helps. You need those little miracles throughout the day. I mean, and sometimes they're huge miracles, but you need that, to keep going. But it's true.
It is true. They're always there. If you guys are watching, I want you guys to put in the comments. We can't always see them on here, but if you're watching the replay, if you're watching live, put in the comments, how do you see God show up in your life? How do you see him in your journey? What little miracles have happened for you? And as we share them, it's going to help anchor that gratitude more into each of us, those who are watching, those who are reading, those who are sharing. Sometimes sharing it helps us to remember the goodness and what God has inside of and what he's done for us. And as we share that, it kind of comes back up and you can feel it all over. I don't know if you can feel yours, but like, as I share the stories, it's like, yep. God is good.
Yeah. You just have, your heart swells and you're like, okay, this is, I might've been crying 5 minutes ago, but now I'm laughing and now I'm happy. And everything's going to work out. It really will. It's going to be fine. But it all starts with the gratitude exercise. And I know that we're here in November, and this is when a lot of people take time to be thankful because we're at Thanksgiving. But starting now and continuing every day to be, to find the reasons to be grateful. And none of us really have to work that hard at finding reasons to be grateful. I mean, we have food, we have shelter, we have water. You can start there. Sometimes that's where you have to start to find, especially if you're feeling at your lowest of lows, because I've been there. You have to, there's always something to feel grateful for, and you're never alone. And that's a message that I would like to send out to a lot of people, because I know that, I am a health coach. I did write a book about losing weight, but that's not all I am. The fact that there are people out there that are struggling, I would like to help them however I can. That's because I feel grateful for every blessing that I've been given, and I would like to help others feel the same way.
Yeah. So when you do your gratefuls, do you just have a gratitude journal, just write what you're grateful for each day, or do you have a different kind of a practice?
I do positive aspects of everything. And if something is on my mind or something is, like right now, the positive aspect of this is there's sunlight, but I don't have a backdrop and I don't really like that. But you know what? I'm here. So I'm not going to think about that, even though there is part of me that's like, gosh, you could have picked something better for your background, Heather. It's okay. But if something's bothering me for the day, I will find a positive aspect. Okay, I have a problem. This is good because. So say, I'm behind with bills. Okay, this is good because I can use my critical thinking skills and figure out a way to make it happen. And I've been blessed with the brain that has allowed me to do that. So, I'll write it down. And sometimes it's better to write with a pen and pencil or pen and paper. And sometimes I do it in a Google Doc. But the positive aspects, and I don't start with like the highlights of, or somebody let me over in traffic. I'm thankful for that. I had a flat tire, but it allowed me to meet someone nice, and they were able to be a good Samaritan. So I'm going to pay that forward. And I try to do that with at least 5 things every day, especially on the bad days. I'll try to do 10.
I love that. That's powerful practice, to take the things that bother you and shift them. Because otherwise, if you don't change them, Yeah, you could take it from the negative, you can turn it to the positive, and you can hold that part in your heart rather than the negativity and the resentment and the hard, because we hold the hard, it just follows into tomorrow and makes tomorrow harder.
It does. And it's, I think that's a human tendency to remember that pain and that hurt, to protect yourself from it happening again. But also you have to shift that, because if you're never vulnerable, you're never going to make lasting relationships that, that impact your life and others. So sometimes, or all the time, it's okay. You can't live your life shut off from that. You have to open yourself up to it. And if you get hurt, you get hurt, but you're open-hearted.
But that's what Jesus is for, because he heals our hearts in every moment. So we can pray and say, okay, I got this hard one today. I don't know how to get through this. Help me through it. Help me find the good. And he can help you find the good. And then you can write your good and hold on to that as well.
That's right.
So I don't know if you were on this morning when we did the first session. It was in the other broadcast because of the tech glitch thing. But I was telling the story of when my 15-passenger van lost power steering at 11:30 at night on a 4-lane highway. And I had 3 little kids in my car. And the miracles that happened through that. And it was right after I had committed to God to write about everything that happened in my day, only with gratitude statements. So I had to tell the whole story of my day only in gratitude. And it was a powerful, powerful practice. So if you ever find yourself in a really hard spot, try that.
I would like to know what that said.
You'll have to go back and watch it, because just repeat it.
I wish I had seen that, because So wow, that's but you got through it.
Yeah, it was powerful. And to this day, it anchors that power of gratitude to my heart. And for those of you who join the VIP, if you go down and you register, you'll go to the page with the VIP package. It's only $37. You'll get all kinds of goodies, as well as a $200 workshop that we're going to do next week that will anchor gratitude and get you into creation. And I'll walk through a little bit more of those processes and the different things that I do to help you really get that gratitude deep, deep inside of you. So that will be super fun. And here's a couple more power questions for you if you're doing your journaling. So Scott earlier, he was talking about writing about the hand of God and how you're seeing the hand of the Lord in your life every day, which I love that. And then another power question I have at the bottom of my journal is, what was my favorite part of today? And I write, what did I learn? How was I successful? What did I give today? What did I receive today? And I write, what was my favorite part of the day? And then my final question is, God, what was your favorite part of my day? And that is a powerful question, because so many times we think, oh, I'm so frustrated in all of this. And he's like, I really liked that one moment when you took the time to be careful and help this child when he was having a freak out. And whatever that was, but to see God's perspective on how much the happy things are, like the little things that we didn't maybe recognize as much. We're like, oh, I was just doing what had to happen.
Right. But
yeah,
but no, because I mean, when every time you take the time to hold the door open for someone, or to maybe help a mom out who's got a child that's having a meltdown at the grocery store, or to say, hey, can I take a picture of you guys? We're down here at the beach and we do that. I see people taking, I'm like, hey, you want me to take a picture of your whole family? So everybody can be in the picture. And sometimes just that look on their faces, it's like, wait, you just want to do something nice for me for no? Yeah, I do. Yeah. It is sometimes. I feel selfish for doing it, but I feel like that might have helped them, and I hope that someone would do the same for me if I'm in that position. Sort of the whole be the change type thing. But yeah, that is a great journal question that I've not thought to do. I think I'm going to add that to mine. That's
super powerful.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying about volunteering to take pictures. It's interesting that I'll ask God to just put me in places to help people. And there'll be times when I'm outside the temple and somebody will be there and they'll need a picture. And so I'll take the picture of them. Or we were on vacation once and I was walking outside at 7 o'clock in the morning, walking around the pools and stuff. And there was these people visiting and they were come from all over, met themselves, their family was gathered there. And I was able to take their picture. And just at church the other day, their family had come and they're like, hey, can you take a picture? And at first they're like, oh, can you take my picture? And they're hesitant. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's super great. And then I just asked them, I'm like, well, I'm a photographer. Would you want me to do it official or just do a quick snapshot? And they're like, oh yeah, you could do. And then I was like, stand here, stand there, click. And they're like, wow. And it was just that moment of what are your gifts? And if you ask God for, how can I use this to bless someone else today? Then he'll put them in your place and he'll put them in front of you and allow you to, whether that's sharing your story of your son with autism to help another mom who might be struggling that you didn't know. And she'll overhear you saying something and be like, oh my gosh, you just said something that like totally blessed me.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because yes, that happens so often. I found when I say, listen, this is my son, Nathan. He has autism. We don't define him by that, but I'm just telling you that so you'll understand we're learning personal boundaries here. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, well, you know what? My nephew has autism. Yes. Or, my cousin or my neighbor. And I'm realizing now it looks like I'm in the dark here.
Yeah, seriously, once the sun comes in your window there, if you rotate your camera
here, I know I'm gonna switch.
If you're on your laptop, turn your face toward the window.
Yes, I am. Okay.
No, the other way.
It looks like, oh, okay.
Your face toward the window.
I'm totally.
There you go.
Now you can see me. It doesn't look like I'm
being part. Put the light in front of you, and it shines.
I do not have I don't have a fancy backdrop.
Not yet. It's gorgeous.
No, that's but that's a big thing, because it's like, wait, well, you have, and a lot of times I have exchanged numbers and contacted people and spoken to them, because I'm always willing to help anybody, but especially someone who's a lot of times these people are at their wits' end and they don't know what to do, and so I'm like, okay, I'm a health coach. I wrote this book on losing weight, but I'm also a mom and a person. And we talked about this the other day. I'm not going to niche down. I do a lot of different things. So any time I can help lift someone else up or help them with resources that I may have that they may not, I want to do that for them, because that's what I would want someone to do for me and someone to do for my children.
Yes. I'm writing another quote. It's in my head. It has to come out.
Okay.
And we're all about being real. For those of you who are new to everything that I do, like, it's all about being real, and that wherever you're at in whatever phase of your life, that if you show up with open heart and willing hands and say, okay, God, use me. Where do you want me to do? Then who's going to guide you step by step? It could be like, I've had one where it's like, hey, I felt this overwhelming urge to do a Facebook Live. And I was like, why? Like, it seems like an off day to do it. And my hair's a crazy mess and whatever's happening. And like, okay, I'll do it. And then I do it. And then 5 years later, it pops up on my timeline on a day that I'm having a hard day. And I'm like, it might have helped people in the process, but it could have just been that seed that God was giving me of something I was going to need in the future. And by the way, you blessed all the people in the meantime that might have seen it. But to see even how he uses you to bless yourself, whether that be through something you wrote, something you read, something you recorded, whether that be through buying your VIP package and having your recording on your phone that you can listen to in 5 years, that just pops up, and it's just what you need, because you don't know what's coming in 5 years.
No. And that's interesting that you say that, because if you look at it's my personal Facebook page, all of those videos, none of those were planned. Nothing it's always, I feel like this is what I need to do. And I do it. 2 years ago, when I was trying to do videos for my website and stuff, I would over plan, over prepare, and it was like and now it's just, it feels more organic that way. But I feel like it's because this is what I need to say at the time. And I've gotten so many emails and responses and calls asking questions about Nay or life or how can I help? And it's putting yourself out there without the fear.
Yeah.
And it helps people.
And it's just showing up to serve. Say, God, where do you need me today? Where do you need me today?
Yeah. It's like the bottle cap that I've got a water bottle, so it doesn't have it. But on the old Coca-Cola bottles, you got to be present to win. Yeah. But the drawings and stuff, it's sort of a message, a reminder to show up. You have to show up.
Oh.
And, so that's true for life and moment to moment. You got to show up. If you never show up, you don't have a chance to contribute or win. And sometimes winning might mean, helping another person. Sometimes winning might mean Ed McMahon showing up, if that's still a thing. I don't know. But you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah. So what are your practices? What do you do on those days when you feel like, okay, I woke up and today just feels overwhelming? Or maybe your son's having a really hard day and you're like, it just feels like so much. What is the practical, like step by step? What happens in your head? What do you think? What do you feel? And what do you do?
Well, I think, how can I fix this? How can I make sure that my ripple impact doesn't go out to my son and to everyone else? Let's switch our state up here and let's go for a walk. Let's listen to some music. Let's maybe go down to the beach and pick up some seashells, but let's switch this up so that we don't go down a dangerous path of frustration or anxiety or, or spiraling out of control with fear-based thoughts. And usually movement is part of that, and music is part of that. And, what do we need to do to redirect and take action immediately to make sure that we don't go down that, because everyone has those moments, but it's not staying in those moments and getting out of them is the important, and accept the moment and then move from it.
Yes.
And that's what we do. And that's what works for us.
Yeah, definitely.
So far.
I've got some practical things that I do that I'll share. And then I want you to tell me if you do something similar or if you have maybe a different tweak on it that you share. But what I will do is I'll have people make a joy list. So it's like, what is this that brings joy to my heart? Whether that be, I'm going to eat a fresh avocado out of this thing and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to enjoy every bite of it. Or I'm going to go for a walk. Or I have my hula hoop that lives behind my hutch in my kitchen and I'll go outside and plant my feet in the grass and hula hoop for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. And it's like, what is it that brings joy to my heart, that brings that smile to my face, that, whether that's going to lunch with a friend or whatever, have that list of, these are like things I can do in an instant. These are maybe things that take longer. And these are things that are like, if I want to go to a retreat or something like that, but having different areas, things that are free and things that are paid and things that are 5 minutes and things that are 10 minutes and things that are half a day. And
right.
So because sometimes we're in that place of stuck and we're like, I know the stuff to get me out of it, but right now I don't feel like thinking about what the stuff was. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea, though. Yes. And knowing those things, that's self-awareness there, though. You have to have that certain amount of self-awareness to know, okay, what does bring me joy? But that's perfect, because all you need sometimes is just, 30 seconds, not even a whole minute. You've got that time to spare to get yourself out of those minutes to spare to get out of despair. Everyone has that. You've got 30 to 60 seconds to get yourself out of that. So that's good. I forgot about hula hoops. I don't know if I could do that, but I might try it now that you say it, because it sounds like fun.
Another thing is those wiggle boards. I don't know if you've seen them. They look like this.
We have one.
So yes, we love that. We'll just turn on the music and do like this wiggle thing like this.
Yeah.
Really good core workout too. But my kids will like that.
That is a good core workout. Yeah.
So that's fun.
That's good. And it doesn't have to be, as I mentioned, self-care before. It does not have to mean going to like the Four Seasons to a spa. It can be a free activity, walking outside, and that helps a whole lot. Just going outside and taking a walk. Any type of activity, anything that brings you joy, a playlist that you love. That can bring you right out of it. But those are I like that joy. How many items do you have on your joy list?
Whatever you want, and you can add to more all the time. I have so many practices like that I would love to share. So if any of you if you're in my creation workshop, ask, and I will tell you all the ones that are relevant for where you're at right now in your life, because it's amazing. It changes everything, and like ways you can set up your life where your phone will remind you, your house will remind you, everywhere you look, you will be able to get yourself out like that.
Yeah. And
so instead of being stuck for a week or a month or a year or 3 years or a decade, you can learn how to shift faster and let go quicker.
Yes. And doing it from not depending. It's good to have friends, family, but being able to be aware of that and doing it for yourself and not relying on another person to tell you to do it is a big part of it. That's important. So having that self-awareness and having that list, that's a big deal. I encourage everyone to do that.
Yes.
I'm gonna steal that idea, Olivia.
I love it. Send me a picture when you're done. I want to see your list. And you can even have your son do it. It's so fun to have your family gather them and be like, hey, can everybody write down your joy list? Or we do a love menu. It's like, what is it that makes you feel loved? Because sometimes what I would express love isn't the way that they feel it. So then if they have their love menu, then we can have a book that has everyone's love menu in it. And you say, oh, so-and-so is having a hard day. What works for them? Oh yeah, they like gifts. Let me go bring them a candy bar, or bring a bowl of ice cream and sit on their bed and say, hey, you want to talk?
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. So thank you, Heather, for being here. It has been a glorious hour of so much goodness.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry I was literally in the dark here I am again. But hey, I hope the message got out, and I'm honored to be a part of this. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll be in contact, and all the contact information for Heather will be in your little gift packet that you'll get. So if you don't have your ticket, get the link down from the little scrolly bar. Make sure you are logged in and joined so that you can get all the contact info to connect with all our amazing guests today. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Have a great day. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, for those of you who have hopped in since, this is the little VIP bundle that we were talking about. It has so much goodness for you. It's only $37. You will get the bonus live Q&A sessions after the event each day. So when we're through here at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, we will hop over to a private Zoom room where you get to hang out with me and some of our other guests, and we'll be there together, and we'll have all of us on screen, and we'll be able to talk and ask and answer questions and help you move forward to see more of God's goodness or answer any other questions that you have. I'm open to whatever it is that you have. You'll get lifetime access to all the recordings from the event, which you can then put on your phone on a playlist and put them on shuffle. I just say a prayer and I say, "Okay, God, what do you need? What do I need today? I'm feeling kind of stuck." And I put it on shuffle, or just like scroll through and start somewhere in the middle of a video and just trust that he's going to bring me the message that I need in that moment. And it never fails. He always does, whether that be through a scripture, through a song, through a recording, or something like this that I have attended. Absolutely fabulous. And I love it so much. And then you'll get a ticket to the Joyful Holidays Gratitude and Creation Workshop. So many times in the holidays, people are maybe a little bit overwhelmed with the chaos of everything going on, of the busy schedules, of the gift giving, of the family relationships that maybe aren't quite as peaceful as you want them to be. Whatever that looks like, there's across the board, people could do better with more gratitude and more conscious creation in their life of what it is that they're experiencing. So it's not just a creation like an art project or a creation like a song, but this is creating your life, creating your world, creating the environment that is inside of you and the environment that is outside of you and the feeling that's around you and how people react when they're in your space because of the energy, the light levels, the vibration that you're in that allows you to have a positive influence on everyone and everything around you rather than just whatever happens. You're going to act rather than react. And it's a beautiful process. Then we get 20 minutes, you and me, we get to hang out on the phone and do a coaching call. We're going to get really connected to what it is that you want and clear on your next steps to move there. Whether that be something that I can just help you with on the spot, whether that be something I can refer you to someone in my network that has what you need to move forward on your God mission and what he's called you to do, or just in that phase of life and what support you need to move forward. We're going to do a mindset workshop where we get to take a deep look into your mind and how it is that you see the world, because everyone sees the world differently on your perspective of your heart, your mind, your experiences from the past, and it changes. So we can be sitting in the same room with 5 people and all watching the same movie or experiencing the same play or at the same dinner table. And all of us are having a different experience. And one person can walk away saying, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing." And the other person can be like, "I didn't get nothing out of that," or "I felt judged the whole time." Whatever that was is based upon what you have experienced in the past. So we're going to look at your mindset, figure out where your mindset is. We're going to look at your mindset and we're going to figure out where you think it should be. So how you think you should be thinking, how you actually are thinking, and then kind of what's in between and how you can upgrade that mindset in order to upgrade your life. Because when you change your mind, it just, the way that you think and the way you see the world, it ripples out and everything in your world is elevated. And it's a really, really cool thing. And then we're going to have a natural health solutions workshop, which we will discover how essential oils support your physical, mental, emotional wellness. I've been using essential oils for the last 10 years plus. I love them. There's like piles of them over here on my desk that I use for all kinds of things. And I love them. They will help me when I'm on, like if I have something big like this and I need to focus or I didn't get enough sleep, that help boost my energy levels. They can help me be calm if I'm feeling stressed out. They can help when my kids need help when sleeping. They can help boost happiness levels. They are amazing. And I love them and use them for everything. And I'm excited to share with you and help you customize how they can work to help benefit your life as well. Love that. And the first 100 people who have entered or who buy their VIP bundle here for the $37, you'll be entered to win a 2-hour creation session with me. That's my favorite. I get to hang out with you for 2 hours, and we will just go deep into whatever it is that you have and kind of take that plan on that clear next steps in our coaching call. And we can take that and we can go deep and we can create whatever it is that you need. So if you have a God calling and you feel like, hey, God wants me to do this, he wants me to create this ebook, or he wants me to make this website, or whatever he wants, whether it's a techie thing, a graphic thing. I've been a graphic designer for 20 years, whether that is a life thing. How do I balance my kids? How do I inspire them to do their chores? How do I get myself motivated to clean my house or to exercise? Whatever that is, we'll take your creation of what you want to experience and we will make that into a physical reality, whether that be in a product or in a structure or in a way that works with your season of life where you're at now in order to move you forward faster. So the link is there at the bottom of the graphic, and you can go there to the VIP package and get that for $37 if that's something that you want. I would love to hang out with you and get to know you, because I can talk here and that's great. I love sharing stories. But there's something magical that happens with one-on-one, like actual person connection. When I get to look into your eyes and I get to see your heart, and we get to move forward on your goals and your dreams and the things that are most important to you. So I encourage you to grab the VIP bundle. It's only $37. It's absolutely amazing and such a good thing. So I'm going to hop you over here really fast, and we're going to go to a little potty break real quick here while we wait for our last speaker to hop in for today, and then we'll hop over to the VIP group. So if you did not get your VIP ticket yet, make sure that you do that. I will switch the ticker across the bottom so you guys know where the VIP link is. And if you want to get that, so you can add into the VIP Q&A, which will happen at 2 p.m. Mountain, which is in about 55 minutes here. So I will be right back, and go take your potty break, get your water, and I'll see you in a minute. Hey guys, I am back here. We're just working some tech out on the other end. When we lost the live stream link, we're getting some little confusion on the links here. Our guest will be right back, so just hold tight and enjoy your little snack. Take a breathing break and it'll be awesome. We'll see you soon. Okay, tech issue fixed again. We are here. Welcome back to Gratitude for the Goodness of God. We have our final and amazing guest this morning, or this afternoon at this point, depending on where in the world you are. We have Miss Marnie Coons with us, and she is absolutely full of light and joy. And I love the way that she has taken her challenges and transformed them. She's allowed God to work through her to do absolutely amazing things, to bless many, many people, as well as receive all the goodness that God has for her. So welcome to Marnie Coons.
Hey, thanks for inviting me to be here. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for being. So go ahead and let people know a little bit about you, and then we'll hop into your story. I like that one better. There we go. Talk into your story a little bit and tell us about how God works in your life.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a mom of 6. I live in Northwest Georgia with my husband, Dave. And wow, how has God worked in my life? I think he has given me everything that I ever wanted, which is kind of a cool thing to be able to say on the other side of feeling like I didn't have everything that I wanted. So as far as who I am, I work with people on discovering, creating, and delivering their soul song, that thing that God put them in the world to put out there. My husband and I work together. That could look like doing websites or social media stuff, or helping you with a book or a course or training or whatever, to kind of get your message out in the world. And I've written 31 books, about half of them fiction, half of them nonfiction. And have really, I started a site called She Loves God back in 2000, I think. And some of my friends told me, "You're crazy. Don't do that. Don't mix your Christianity with your with your business." And I was like, "No, well, God's telling me to do it." And I can trace any of my success back to that point of being willing to do that and not hide it. So God's been a big piece of my journey, and I always say he makes the best marketing manager for your business. So
it does. Well, let's go back to the beginning. I haven't heard this part of your story before, but if you go way back to before you started She Loves God, what was your life like? Like, were you in the business world? Were you in marketing? Were you in any of this stuff already when you started that? Or was that kind of like, oh, big project? What are you talking about? Because that was like the beginning of when the internet really started like catching on, right?
Yeah. I actually got on, I was doing computer training and consulting as a business, started in 1990. Wow. And through that, I ended up meeting a girl who told me about the web in about 1995. And she got me into doing that. We went into business together, and she'd design the websites, and I'd get my customers, to have their businesses put online. And so I was already doing that kind of stuff, marketing people with articles and newsletters and things like that, online websites. So 2000 was just when I was working with a coach at the time, and we got into some really fun spiritual topics and conversations and stuff. And it was an outgrowth of that friendship, really, because she encouraged me to do it. And I'm glad I did. So.
Yeah. But do you feel like God was in the detail of like, hey, meet this person, hey, talk to them, and kind of brought it together there?
Oh, totally. God was definitely in every bit of that friendship. And I ended up meeting my mentor, Leslie Householder, through She Loves God as well, because I wrote an article that she replied to, and we got to be friends. And she taught me a lot of great principles around the laws of thought, specifically the power of gratitude and the law of polarity, that with anything, a little scary, anything a little bad has a little good in it. And if it's catastrophic, there's something phenomenal inside of it. So that was a big piece of the puzzle for me as well.
That's beautiful. And for those of you who've been hanging out for us a while, and we talked about our the little VIP bundle and the gifts that you're going to get with that, part of that mindset workshop that we're going to do, we're actually working with the principles that Leslie Householder teaches. I partnered with her to share this mindset quiz, and it's going to be amazing. So we're going to work together, and we're going to dive into your mindset and talk about what that looks like and how you see the world, and then how we can shift that up to help you reach your goals faster, which will then put you in a place of belief that will guide you to Marnie, where she will help you create it in reality. So it's all beautiful and it goes together, and I love it.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. So Marnie's topic today, when we were talking, is all about really trusting that we have everything that we need in this moment, and that God is really taking care of us. So will you tell us some of your story there, whichever way you feel so inspired, because that's how we roll.
Yeah, there's kind of a couple layers to that. So I'll start with the furthest one back. I was in a marriage that wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be for about 28 years. And I felt, as I started praying about it, I was feeling hopeless. And I started to pray and read scriptures about how Christ is the resurrection and the life. And I realized he could resurrect my hope. And so he kind of led me on this journey of gratitude to resurrect my hope. So what he had me do was start to journal and write down how I wanted to be treated in my life, how I wanted my life to be and things. And then he had me look for where I was being treated that way. So, and then I would journal at the end of the day. Like I had a list of, let's say 30 items, for example. And at the end of the day, I would look and say, oh, that showed up today, and this person did that for me. Maybe on my list was makes me laugh, and a squirrel jumping around the yard made me laugh that day, or gives me a hug, and one of my boys gave me a hug, So I started to see that God was giving me everything that I wanted. It just wasn't coming from this one person that we traditionally think needs to be the person giving you all that stuff. And I called it my Sam experiment. So this fictional thing was this Sam, but Sam stands for Spot of Mercy. So I started spotting the mercies of God and how he was romancing me in a way. There's a book called Captivating that's really good. And he talks about how the Lord is romancing us. He's giving us the things that we need, and it comes from all these different places. And don't get so tied up that it has to come from one person or one area or whatever. So that started to shift me into gratitude, and what I call observant gratitude, which is, where you're expecting God to bless you and you're on the lookout for where it's going to come from. So that's the first piece of it. I don't know if you want.
I love it. Yeah, I want to write that one on the tacker here. You just keep talking. I'm going to type that.
Okay. So anyway, years went by. I did that from about 2010 through 2015, 2016, something like that. Ended up going through a divorce. And then I got to this point where everything got removed out of my life. Okay. Google kind of destroyed my business. And so my business took a big nosedive. My mother died. I was going through a divorce all at the same time. Even my car tore up where I couldn't even drive it. And my main computer crashed on the day my mother died. It was just like everything was just like falling apart. And I was pretty like, what is going on? And I didn't really understand it. And I started, I was kind of verbalizing some of what I was going through online. And this gentleman contacted me. I don't even know the man's name. I don't remember his name, but he insisted on calling me through Facebook Messenger. He was from Canada. And I'm like, all right. He's like, I know why all this is happening to you. I can give you a clue. And I'm like, oh, anything. It was desperate to understand what God was doing in my life. Because I felt God had promised me all these things. And I mean, I lost my property. I lost my house. I lost everything. It was all just gone. And I had specific promises that I felt like God gave me about this property. So I'm like, I don't understand. So anyway, he called me and he said, you need to read a book called The Breakthrough Experience by Dr. John Demartini. It will make sense out of everything that you're going through. And I was just so desperate that I'm like, I will do it. I will get it. So I got it on a Kindle and I started diving into this book. And it resonated with me because it matched the stuff that I'd learned from Leslie Householder about the law of polarity. But it dives deeper into that law of polarity in that you start to see that God is blessing you simultaneously in the moment with the challenge. There are blessings that show up in the moment with the challenge, not just down the road. Yeah, God's going to turn it for your good down the road, but there's blessings right here in this moment. So, and he has like an exercise in the middle of the book that really, I took, like, I was in the process of a divorce. So I took that husband that was divorcing me at the time through this experience in the middle of it. And what it does is it helps you collapse the pain, the grief, everything with this experience that he puts in the center of the book. And I did it with multiple things that I was still kind of grieving, the loss of my business. I've done it with, you can do it with more than people. So this was like March of 2017 that my mother died and all this happened. And that husband asked for the divorce. And then by June 6th of the same year, so from March to June, I was able to tell that husband the last time I went by to pick some things up, can I give you a hug? Thank you. You were a blessing in my life when you were in it, and you're a blessing letting me go. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just realized I'm not supposed to keep traveling this path. So thank you. And he was floored. There was a look of shock on his face. He hugged me. I walked out the door and I thought, man, you really let him off easy, but then it's like, no, that's the way it needs to be, just let it go. But that book helped me do that. And it was helping.
Is that the right one? I looked it up on Amazon while you're talking. Is that the right one? Breakthrough by John F. Demartini.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. It's only $1.99 on Kindle. If anybody wants it, there's your link. I just found it for you.
So anyway, that set me on this path of looking for the blessings all around me. I also had an experience a couple of weeks after my mother passed where, I was just walking out of the grocery store and this download of hope came, and it was like, your life is about to get amazing. You've got this powerful angel, your mother, on your side. Your life is about to get amazing. And I was at a spot where I'll have to admit, at that time, it was before I had read the book and everything. And I was feeling like God just wants to push me down, and maybe he's not going to bring me back up again. Maybe he just wants me to just suffer through, maybe this is my lot for the rest of my life. That's kind of where I was. I didn't have a lot of faith that God was going to help me out of that at that particular point. And but I had this thing about your life is about to get amazing with this new powerful angel on your side. And my mother was such this person that, I mean, the woman instinctively knew when I ran out of fabric softener and when I was a young mother and struggling, and she would show up the door with the fabric softener. Then she would come in and help me do my laundry. And she was just like, run to you, help you kind of person. I thought, now, if that woman is an angel or has any power on the other side, I am in good shape. That I believed. And so I realized after a few months of my life really starting to get amazing and turning around, my mom couldn't do anything God didn't want to do for me, but God could get to me through my mother's love, because she modeled God's love to me, and her love sort of, it amplified after she passed in a way. And I did feel her really close to me a lot. I mean, I felt like she was right there with me through it all. So that was a turning point for me as well. But okay, I'm going to pause because you might want to say something.
No, I feel like we actually need a pause. I feel like we just need to sit for a moment and just reflect on what are those little things in your life where God shows up, like your mom with fabric softener. Like there's so many times when I had little tiny kids and it was those things, and it's like, okay, I really need this right now. I'm freaking out. And then it would just show up. And it's that God is good and that he's very aware of us. Whether he's sending human fleshy angels or he's sending spiritual angels, they're always there, and he's always there. So write in the comments if you guys are watching, and we'll go back and read them when we're done here. But where did you see those things show up in your life? Where do you see God showing up with heavenly angels or with earthly angels that have blessed your life?
This came to my mind as you were saying. Yesterday, I shop at Aldi. Sorry if I'm not supposed to tell who I shop with, but anyway.
You shop at Aldi. I don't know.
You always have to have a quarter, to get your shopping cart, and
I don't know. We don't have an Aldi here.
I love them anyway, but that's the way they save money, is that you got to put a quarter in to get your shopping cart, and then you get your quarter back when you leave. Well, I'm searching. I don't have a quarter, and I'm like, I really need a cart today. I need a quarter, And I just thought, anybody want to send me a cart? So I look over, and this guy's in a big hurry, and he just takes and he just shoves his cart back in the thing, and he's too busy to get his quarter out. And I'm like, thank you, my little shopping cart angel. Just go over and get. And I was so grateful for that, because it's just some small little thing of the shopping cart, And I think God likes it when we pay attention to those little things and not assume they're a coincidence. What if, you're.
Yeah, I feel like they're little love notes from God.
Yeah,
it really is. He's there, and all the time we have parking angels. So
yeah,
like, hey, we're here. We really need to find a parking spot, and then it'll just like open, and the kids are always like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "No, God does it. He cares, and just like you care about your kids, and hey, this, like, I have one kid who really loves cuddles, and I have another kid who really loves going to the grocery store with me, and I have one who really loves it when I bring him ice cream. So it just depends on the kid, and sometimes it's those things you do just to delight your child.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do you want to go on a walk with me? Just me and you. And I'm like, oh, mom time. Yes, I do. And if the one is like, hey, do you want to have ice cream with me? Yeah, I want ice cream. And so it's just those little things, and I feel like God does that for us too.
Yeah.
He finds the things that delight us and the things that we need and that are important to us, and he gives us those as well. Not necessarily every single time. So if it's not happening in your world today, don't feel like God's not there, because he is. And he puts them in the right moment too. Yeah.
And sometimes I think I spent a good deal of my life just not seeing what he was doing. Another big point, I had read the book. I was staying with a friend of mine out west. And so I had no car while I was there. I was doing some training. So I had, some money coming into my business and everything, enough to get by and everything. But I really had nowhere to live other than maybe at my dad's house. And my friend was just out of the goodness of her heart let me stay there. And she would let me borrow her extra car if I needed it. Anyway, there was this one night I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning with a song in my head. There was actually a dream of a man was next to me, and he was pointing at some like haiku on a piece of paper, and it was a song, and there was a melody in my head. Now you'd have to know that I played piano since I was 5, but I always just played what was written on the page until maybe a few years before the time of this story. But I'd always wanted to be able to write a song. I want to be able to write a song with lyrics. And that was just like this thing I never even wrote it down. It was just like a longing that seems so impossible you don't even write down, right?
It was your little righteous desire in your heart.
Yeah. And so I wake up this morning and there's this song. And so I grab a piece of paper. I couldn't remember all the lyrics, but the lyrics came anyway, fully formed. And the melody, I sang it into my phone. And then I got on my friend's piano and I played it out. I recorded it. I'm let my friend listen to it. And she's like, this is really good. I like this song, And I had this epiphany moment sitting there with my friend at her kitchen counter there, that I have everything that I need. And I had absolutely nothing really as far as worldly stuff goes. But I'm like, I even have this male muse in my mind. I don't even need a guy because I've got this male muse in my mind who's feeding me lyrics and songs. I could use my friend's car. I had a roof over my head. I had food. I had everything I needed. I might not own it all, but that didn't matter. And it was just this intense awareness that God had me in that moment. He would, he's always had me. I've never gone without electricity or food or, you know what I mean? He's always shown up for me. He'll come show up for me the next moment. Why worry about the future? He's got me with everything. And it was so profound that I had everything I needed. I don't even need a man. I don't need anything. And the funny thing is I met my husband like the day after that, literally the day after that. But there's one of the things that DeMartini talks about in his book is once you really become aware that you have everything, even though it may be scattered in different places and different forms, once you really get it, then it can coalesce into the form that is, ideal for you. And so it may not happen the day after you have the aha moment, but I can testify. The interesting thing is everything that God promised me came back. It happened, even though it looked impossible.
Yeah. So give us an idea. You said you came from this place of everything was lost. Like you felt like you didn't have the worldly things. You didn't have your marriage that you wanted. You didn't have your land. You lost your house, all of these things. Where did God bring you to now? And what tender mercies were like the landmarks along the way that guided you there?
Okay. So back during the whole Sam experiment thing, the Lord started showing me things. He showed me somebody coming into my life who liked to travel, who had a lot of energy. And I was really overweight at the time and sluggish and barely able to. And so I thought, well, if God's going to bring me this person, I got to get myself in shape. So I started getting in shape and stuff. And then he started just showing me this person who would come and work on our property. We would do retreats together and all of this kind of stuff. And then through the process of the divorce, the property went into foreclosure. I didn't get to keep it. Okay. So I'm thinking he showed me this, but this isn't, and I really, by the time my mom had died and everything, I was living in a little apartment a little bit after that. And after this experience of feeling like I have everything, and I like this little apartment. It's low maintenance. I don't really need all that property and everything. And so I was kind of like done. So anyway, I met this gentleman online, and we just got talking because we're both writers, we're both marketers, we both have a lot of stuff in common. And so he was looking at getting some property to do writer retreats. And I said, oh man, he showed me the picture of it. And I'm like, oh, that's what I always wanted to do with my properties. I just always thought that I would do writer retreats and different kind of retreats on it. And I sent him some pictures of it and he's like, wow, you got to get that back. And I'm like, well, they won't give it to me. The whole, my ex-husband gave it to the bank and I'm attached to it. So they're not going to give it to me, but he's like, call, find out. So I call the guy who's handling the foreclosures, like, well, you can't have it. You're, and tells me what I said. Well, it's not really me anyway. It's just this guy that I met online who wants to do writer retreats. He's like, oh, okay, have him contact me. So the guy didn't really contact him right then. But so anyway, we talked for about a month, and the guy decided he wanted to come meet me in person and see if we clicked in person, because we really clicked, through video chat and all this other stuff. So 2 days before he was going to fly in, that realtor calls me and says, your property is about to go up for sale. Does that person still interested? Have him contact me. So I told Dave, I was like, this property's going up for sale. So Dave calls the guy. And then the day after he arrives, a realtor shows him around the property. I'm showing him everything that's wrong with it, because I'm like, I don't want you buying a dud, if you don't, And anyway, we get down to the, looked everywhere. We go down to the creek. There's this big field and a creek. And he's like, I normally don't do this, but I feel like I need to pray about whether to put an offer in on this thing, because there was hundreds of people looking at it, He's like, do you mind if we pray? And I'm like, sure, go ahead and pray. So we kneel down out in the field, and he starts praying, and he's articulating everything that God showed me about this property, about it being a safe haven and this, place of peace and refuge and, and healing and all this other stuff. And I was just bawling by the time he got done with the prayer, because I had never told anybody about any of what God had showed me for the property. And anyway, he put an offer in, short story, long story short. Put the offer in on the property, bought it. He figured if we didn't work out, he would just flip it. And he didn't want to do distance dating. So he figured he would move here and date me anyway. So we dated for, 6, 7, 8 months. And then we ended up getting married. So I'm sitting here in the house, and we do run retreats, and we do our business together. And it's exactly, there's some days, I had conversations with, like, in my mind with Jesus and this Sam that God showed me years ago. And sometimes we'll be sitting at the kitchen table talking, and it's like deja vu. I'm like, I've had these conversations before. These are exactly what he showed me. It's just bizarre. It's really
wow,
crazy. But it was given back to me when I just didn't care anymore, because I was like, I don't really know if I want to go live on this property. It's a lot of work. And, I was over it by the time he's like, okay, here, I'm going to give it back to you. And here's this thing I showed you.
It's beautiful. I feel like God knows that desire in your soul, and he knows it's there, but he needs you to let go of the attachment to it before you can fully receive it in the way that he wants us to have it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could have been in that frustration of, oh, it's so much work. But once you let go of that, you went back in, eyes wide open, saying, yes, I'm choosing into that work, and I'm choosing into what it takes to manage it, because the vision of what I want to create is stronger than the work it's going to take.
Right. That's very much in a nutshell the way I felt, because there were times where it just felt like it was moving so fast. All this stuff was happening, and I'm like, I don't even really want to get married again. I'm kind of over men, and relationship have their struggles and ups and downs, and I deal with something. I'm like, I don't even know if, do I want to marry this guy, or, in the next moment, yeah, okay. But there was this one point when I was like, do I get a say, Lord? Because this is just running so fast and all happening. Do I get a say in this? And the answer I got was like, you totally have a say. If you don't, this is just what we set in motion. And if you don't want it, you don't have to take it. We can create something different together. And I was like, what kind of, thought about it for several days. And I thought, well, what kind of chicken would I be to turn down what God promised me? I wouldn't want to be like,
I've been working and wanting for so long.
Yeah. And we don't ever really realize that when God shows us something's coming that's really good, there's always a price associated with that. There's work involved. There's changing yourself. There's growth. There was a lot of self-growth that I had to go through. We don't think about that. We just think about but there's always an equal balance of challenge and support. So I always look at challenge as just a price tag for the good thing. It's like, okay, am I willing to invest this challenge to get this really good blessing that God wants to give me?
I feel like a lot of times it's that surrender to, I don't really know what this is going to look like, but I'm going to trust you. And
Right.
that, surrender, whether that be your land or your desire for a man, which then you had to surrender your desire for not having a man. Again, that's like a whole another level of surrender and trust of, okay, what's next? I'm trusting you. And then believing that support's there through the challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is about letting go of and just trusting he's got you, whatever it is. I mean, things come up and they may look scary, but he's got you. So, okay, what's he up to? He's up to something. So, yeah.
Well, it's really interesting. You missed the beginning this morning, but StreamYard went down entirely. We were an hour in and the whole thing just cut out. Like the website was down, it wasn't going to work at all. So we had a half-hour hiatus and try to figure out what was going on, and then it came back. And so we restreamed, and it was interesting because when I went to start the restream, originally we were streaming on my Facebook, the Facebook group, and on YouTube. And when I went to set it up again, the prompting was it goes to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I was like, okay, so half of it's streamed in one group and half of it is streamed on in LinkedIn. And I'm like, I don't know what the purpose in that is. But whoever's watching, if you are one that's on LinkedIn and somehow this touched you, I want you to reach out, because you'll be like the closure of this miracle of, I don't know why, but we just listen. And somehow it's meant to hit someone who was there and not in the other way.
Cool. Yeah, you just never know.
Perfect. So can you tell us any stories? Well, you can tell me. You can reject this question if you'd like. But what happened from Dave's side? Like, obviously he's not on here, but do you feel like there's any of that you've learned that he'd be comfortable with you sharing? How did God work in his life to get him to this point of online? It sounded like online dating, right? Like online to here to purchasing your dream property from your ex-husband or from the bank, and then getting you back in the same property that you love, doing what you wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, he's got quite the story. I should have brought him in here to tell it. He had been divorced for probably 8 to 10 years or something like that. Done a lot of dating and everything, had been online dating. And then he had been, there was a house in Seattle that his ex-wife was living in, and he had wanted to sell it and everything for years, but she never wanted to sell it. So about a month before I was going through my husband asking for the divorce, my mother died, his ex-wife said she finally wanted to sell it. She wanted to go move and take care of her mother. So he went out and worked on this house and got it up to speed. In Seattle, he got way more from it by fixing it up, a few things. He spent several months doing that. And he spent a lot of time, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So he was on this challenge of going 100 days to the temple. Every day that it was open, he would go for 100 days. So he would work on his house. He'd get up early, go, then come back and work on his house and everything. And so that was where he was coming from. And then by the time he sold it and everything, he came away with a lot of money, but he decided to go to Wisconsin, where his dad lives, and his mom lived, and then take care of them for a little bit, visit with them. And that's how we met. I was like in Utah and posted that I was in North Salt Lake, but really live in Chattanooga. And he was still on this site, and he had decided that he was going to get off in 3 days. He felt very impressed, just get off of this in 3 days. So they sent him like 5 more people, and some of them he'd already looked at. And he's like, oh, who's this woman? North Salt Lake. He looks at her, me, and said, it's like, oh, he thought either this woman is perfect for me, or it's a Russian hacker who has read my profile and created someone who is perfect for me. So his first message to me was, are you for real? You know, and I don't know, it just struck me kind of like throwing the gauntlet down. And I'm like, yeah, I'm real. Google me, you know, Marty Pearson. And so that's how we struck up the conversation. But he had told me, I'm getting off of here And so we just started talking through chat and video and stuff. But so I feel like he was spiritually prepared. And then when it came time to get the house, one of the reasons he was able to get it is he said, I'll close this into this month with cash. And so that he had that money from that other house to just do it. And so I don't know that he would have won the bid, maybe, if that had, I mean, the timing of it all was just so bizarre. Yeah.
So besides the fact that he held the same dream for the same property that you did, what was it like? How did God work in your relationship to get you to the point where it was like, yes, this guy is for me?
Well, I couldn't deny it, because I'm telling you, he showed me him ahead of time. He's very lively. He loves to travel. He has all this energy, and that's what God showed me, is this really and God showed me somebody who would really love the property. And I think had I owned the property and him just coming in, he would not have felt the sense of ownership that he does. I think it had to be the way it is. It took me a full year of even living in the house before I felt connected to it as being mine. It still felt like it was his so much. So I think it was important. God knew he needed that feeling of ownership in it.
Is this the same house that you were in before you got divorced? Was this the same house?
Yeah, it's the house I built and raised my kids in.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's crazy amazing. God is definitely good. So what gratitude practices do you have? Do you just have a normal gratitude journal, or there's different kind of gratitude practices that you do?
I do journal stuff. That whole concept of the challenge and support that I learned from the DeMartini book is almost become a way of life for me. So anytime I look at a situation and it's difficult, I'm looking around for, okay, there's manure here. Where's the pony? So it's just become a real big piece of my life. I had a situation where some people that I really love and care about didn't like me for a while. And I was really struggling with it, and I didn't really understand what was up. They wouldn't communicate with me what it was about or anything. And this principle came into play in that I started to, anytime I would see them and they might snub me or whatever, in my mind, I would thank them for being the counterweight, because I had this amazing life of everything that I ever wanted. Great man, great home, always doing the things I want to do. And the only problem I really had with these people that didn't like me. And I thought, I'd rather have them not like me than have cancer or, or health out problems. So I just started thanking them in my mind, for being the counterweight. Thank you for rising up, stepping up and saying, hey, we'll play this role in Marnie's life so that she can have this amazing life. And it was funny because within about a couple months, it all resolved itself, So, I mean, it's, there's a lot of power in that concept, and I feel like I'm still unpacking it all the time. So I guess that's my practice, is just to, anytime anything's a challenge, to start thanking. Thank you for the challenge. It's making something possible that's good over here. There's this duality to everything.
I love that. I don't know if you know this, but if you know Gaynalyn Condi, but she talks a lot about praising God in the good, praising him in the hard, and saying, oh, praise God, I just dropped my pitcher and shattered it all over the floor, whatever that is, and being able to add him into anything. Because when we add God and we add Jesus into any aspect of life, whether it be good or whether it be challenging, it makes it better. And it makes us more able to handle it with grace and peace and joy and all of the things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So we've got about 9 more minutes here. Do you have any final thoughts or any story that you feel prompted to share? Because I'm sure you have a mazillion of them.
Yeah. Well, one of the things when you're talking about practice, one of the things that I started back when I was doing like the SAM experiment thing, and where I'm telling you the Lord showed me things ahead of time, is I started this thing of going to God in prayer in such a way where I'm like coming into his presence in my mind. Okay. And I'm having a conversation with Christ in my mind. I'm having a coaching session, if you will. Christ is my coach, and he'll ask me questions, and that has been incredibly powerful to me. And Napoleon Hill talked about having your mastermind. You bring in your imaginary people, or people from the past, present, future, historical, whatever. Well, Christ is my person that I bring in to talk with, and he has shown me some really cool things. And I do have inside the thing that I'm giving away at ignitepoint.com, there's a guided meditation to Christ in there that's free inside of that. So even if you don't want to do the whole course, but just download that and do that. And because if you'll do it a couple times, you'll get the gist of it, and then you can do it on your own, and you don't really have to listen to my guided meditation. But a friend of mine introduced me to it. She did a guided meditation to Christ with me, and I was just in tears by the time I was done. And I'm like, I got to learn how to do this. I'm going to start doing this. And so I listened to the recording she did with me a few times, and then it's very powerful. And I really believe he'll be there for us. And there's that verse in the Bible about, I think it's in Revelation, about the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And I think it's because as we come close to him and really get to know him, he can show us through his eyes what is happening, what can happen in our lives and what he wants to do in our lives. And I'm a big believer in that. I've got the story to prove it. So anybody will listen to that story, I'll tell you, if God promises you something, he will deliver, even if it looks like it will not. He's always got your back. And if he shows you something or promises you something, you have it. He's going to deliver.
And I think part of the journey is that we have to hold that faith and hold that trust in him, that he is going to fulfill on that promise. Even like you said, when everything fell apart and you lost everything you thought you had that you wanted, to hold that, like, okay, I'm still going to trust you. I'm not going to say, you took it away. There's no way it's going to happen. But really, him to believe.
I got to be honest with you. I gave up in the middle because I married a second husband, and I knew he wasn't that person that God showed me, because I thought, I'm delusional. This is not going to happen. I'm crazy. And I settled. And I didn't think I was settling at the time. I was kind of in a broken space, and I think it was for a reason that I needed to marry that person. But I think if you keep turning back to Christ, even if you lose faith, even if you just think, he's never going to deliver, if you will at least turn back, he will make it happen. Because I am so far from perfect. I have messed up so much along the journey of that. And he forgave me. He let it go. He still delivered on those promises. He is so merciful, so full of grace and forgiveness. So I'm a witness to that as well, that, as long as you keep turning back to him, you can't mess up what he promises you.
Yes. I think that's a fabulous place to end on. Thank you, Marnie. And if you don't have it yet, go down to the bottom, make sure you grab the link and make sure you're registered so that you can get her gift. It's an amazing masterclass on helping you live a spirit-led life. And it's very generous and life-changing. So thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate you. And we'll see you in a minute over at the VIP session in the Zoom room. So those of you who aren't, if you want the VIP, that link is scrolling across the bottom here too. Make sure you upgrade to VIP. Let me put it on the screen so you can see it again. Yes. There you go. So that's your VIP session. It's only $37. There's the link there, as well as scrolling on the bottom. All the goodies that are there, we talked about them earlier. So hopefully if you're on the right now, you've actually heard me go through all of them again. But basic gist of it is we want to hang out with you and we want to know you as a person, not just a comment that might scroll down the screen. So come hang out with us and will get to ask questions at these gratitude gatherings. This is right now. In the next 5 minutes, we'll hop over to the Zoom room, and anyone on VIP will be there and be able to talk with Marnie and I, and anyone else who chooses to join us, and ask any questions that you've got and receive support, guidance, inspiration, whatever it is that you need in this season of your life. As well as you'll get the recordings for everything that we're doing here, so you can put them on your phone, put them on shuffle, put them on replay, and let God bring those messages back to your heart over and over again over the next year and the next decade and every season, and all the challenges that come up as you seek to follow him more fully. Then you'll get a ticket to the Joyful Holidays Gratitude and Creation Workshop, where we're going to anchor in the gratitude and everything that you see and feel and be able to really get it into ourselves. And then we're going to talk about creation and what it is that you're wanting to create in your life, those righteous desires in your heart, and then the resources to show up to be able to help you to accomplish those. You'll get a 20-minute coaching call with me where we're going to talk about what you want to create. We're going to go into it deeply, one-on-one, and create a custom plan for you to get there and your next steps as well. And we'll do our mindset workshop that we were talking about earlier that works with the mindset quiz that Leslie Householder created. And we're going to talk about your mindset. We're going to talk about where it is, how you see the world, and how you think you should see the world, and then how you can improve that mindset to therefore improve every area of your life. And we'll talk about our Natural Health Solutions workshop, where we'll talk about physical, mental, and emotional health and wellness, and how essential oils can support you on that journey. And then if you haven't done so yet, one of the first 100 people who get the VIP will also be entered to win a 2-hour creation session with me, where we get to go deep and actually physically create whatever it is that you need to set up your life and your structure for success to help you reach your goals faster. So thank you so much for being with us. Well, Marnie's still here, so we'll let her wave hello. Thank you all for being here. We're going to hop over to the Zoom room. So if you're on VIP, go over there and we'll see you in a minute. Thank you all for being here. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. If you scroll down on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel, you should be able to find the next StreamYard, which is automatically set up, and just click get reminders, and then it will remind you tomorrow, as well as you should get an email from me. So we loved hanging out with you today, and we'll see you tomorrow.